G'day everyone and welcome to the Square Leg. This is going to be totally unscripted, so I don't actually know how this is going to go, or even if I'll post on the Square Leg. I might just post it on a whole new account entirely, I don't know. But yeah, this is the face of the Square Leg, if you didn't know. My name's Nelson. And as you can tell from my voice, I am very much an Australian cricket team fan. And so this is just going to be me talking about cricket, mostly Australian cricket, for however long. It might be 10-15 minutes long, it might be 2 minutes long, I don't really know. Basically, I don't know if any of you guys have seen King of the Fourth Quarter for basketball. It's got a really good program where he just sits down and just talks hoops for God knows how long. So and I just after last night, I feel like I have the need to do that because this Australian T20 side is just, it's in shambles, and there's no real nice way to put that. Honestly, ODI is the exact same. England are going to thump us in ODI, and I don't really think it's going to be close. It's like there's no department that we have them in, apart from maybe like consistent pace bowling, but that is not what wins you games. So Australia lost by 2 runs, chasing 162. We were none for 96 after 10 overs or something like that, and then Aaron Finch went out, and followed by Steve Smith, Dave Warner, Maxwell, and then it all fell apart from there. But what I want to talk about is this middle order for Australia has just been, it's been nowhere for so long, and I honestly don't see, there's no good horizon that you can look to in Australian cricket and say, oh yeah, that's alright, we're going to fix that down the line. Because we haven't had a middle order or lower order finisher for, like you'd have to go for Michael Bevan? I guess Shane Watson batted 3, opened sometimes. Glenn Maxwell in his prime was really good, and I still really rate Glenn Maxwell, and I would be very upset if we dropped him on the back of his 1. I don't think I will, but he does need to be in this team. But the thing is, you got Aaron Finch, Dave Warner, Steve Smith are the 3 absolute locks in this team. They're not going anywhere, at least I think Aaron Finch aimed for the next World Cup. I think Dave Warner said something similar. And after that, we have enough hard hitters in our domestic system. Like Chris Lynn has been unbelievable, really, in the Big Bash for so long now, but he was just, when it came to international cricket, he was just absolute shithouse. So I don't know why that translated to international level, but it just didn't. Glenn Maxwell, we know, he's so up and down, and I think it's more due to Australia using him incorrectly, because he has the talent to adapt to any situation. He has a test match 100, and it's a topic for another time, but I don't think he should have been really dropped from that test side, and if he was lucky, he could still be playing test cricket now. Of course, he's got 100 in all formats, and we saw in the last BBL that his ability to play it through and keep the game on his terms for so long, and then when he's comfortable, attack right at the end. We saw his ability to really do that last Big Bash, and they're still trying to use him as a power hitter. Well, at least I think that's still how they've seen him up until this point. They batted him at 4 this game, which I like. I like Glenn Maxwell batting 4. I think that's definitely the go. But he did make 1, and he played a not so good shot. I don't know if they told him to go on the attack, which was so I don't know why we played so many aggressive shots when we only needed to go at it was under 7 and over. It was, we needed 40 off 38 balls or something like that at one point. And we're doing Steve Smith did a slog sweep on 18. It was just so unnecessary. I don't know why he's done that. Alex Carey just got undone by an absolute Jaffa from Wood, but and there's not really much you can do about that. Alex Carey, though, he hasn't had a good run of things in the international setup. I think long-term ODI, he is definitely the way to go. I think he's got really good grit for the slightly longer formats of the game, and I do think he'll be the next Test wicketkeeper and honestly perhaps captain. It depends how they play it. They might bring him as a specialist batsman and develop him from there. It's probably unlikely, but I think that would be, if you're just looking to the future in terms of leadership, Alex Carey's definitely got that. And you look into the World Cup semi-final, even though Australia got absolutely demolished by England, Alex Carey was the reason why they even had half a decent total in the first place. I mean, he did combine pretty well with Steve Smith, who put on 80 or 90 odd, which was pretty nice. But like you could just see it in his eyes. Alex Carey got hit 2 or 3 times in the head. He had a bandage wrapped right around, and you could see it. I'm gonna bat for my country, and I'm gonna get us within a shot of getting to the World Cup final. And I think if we give Alex Carey a long enough shot at international level, he'll eventually gather the more consistent times, and he'll be able to make some really good ODI and hopefully Test scores. But in the T20 side of things, he hasn't really got going internationally, and I think it might be because I think all of our top order, really, aside from Glenn Maxwell, plays opener or bats 3 in the Big Bash. And that's a real concern, because guys like Alex Carey, Alex Carey has the ability to go from ball 1, and that's why I'm fine with him batting 6 for now. And I think he will learn to bat 6 more efficiently. But we've got so many in that role that just accumulate over time and not necessarily turn the strike over. And so I don't really know how you can't have 5 of those guys in your T20 batting lineup. It just doesn't work. And you've already got Steve Smith, and honestly, David Warner's been striking really, really slowly lately. I don't know what's up with him since his return. I think he's returned. I think he's been striking at 139 or something like that. But lately in the last year, he struck at 123 today, but 58 off 47. And in this case, it did. He didn't need to, but I don't know. I feel less and less confident with him going on the attack. Aaron Finch, I think, feels that pretty nicely. Steve Smith is very underrated in terms of his strike rate. He just sometimes doesn't quite pick when to go. But I did a full project on Steve Smith playing in white ball cricket, and I had the whole I don't know if you've seen on an analysis of Steve Smith in white ball cricket on the Square Leg, my Instagram page, which I presume is where I'll post this. I don't really know. And then I was doing a part 2 of that, and basically he was people get on his case for playing white ball cricket like it's a test. I know that's basically all the Indians say, and it's just because they're emotionally attached to Kohli and whatnot. But he's not. He's out of the Fab 4, and I didn't look at Babar Azam because the sample size is so small at the moment. But out of the Fab 4, he is well and truly second in terms of ODI strike rate, and it's much the same story in T20s. And he has really improved as a T20 player, but he's just I'm going to keep it a buck with you. Steve Smith threw his wicket away this game, and that really hurt. That gave England that glimmer of hope that, we're into Marcus Stoinis, Alex Carey now, Ashton Agar's to come. Whereas if you've got Steve Smith at the crease and he's just holding ground, and that's all you need when you I don't know when he got out. When did he get out? When he got out, we were 1 for 124 at 14.1 overs, and then he got out 2 for 124 after 14.2. So what's that? That's 38 runs Yeah, that's like it's 38 runs off 36 balls, and he does a slog sweep out to deep mid wicket. You don't need to do that, and I don't think that will generally happen with Steve Smith. He is still working out how to play a T20, and I'm not sure that his mindset is completely in it yet. But like hopefully though, by the time the next T20 World Cup comes around in Australia, which, well, yeah, I presume we'll aim for the 2022 World Cup now, since that's on Australian soil, and I think that probably gives us some more time to sort out where our middle order is at. And I think for guys like Steve Smith and Alex Carey, that would be really good for getting their T20 international focus right. For Smith, I think he just needs to still pick when to go, because it sometimes sort of feels like he's like, I'm in a T20, I'm one of the best batsmen in the world, I need to score quick because that's how you're meant to play a T20. But like, you're 17 off 10 and we need 38 runs off 36 balls or something like that. It's like, you don't need to play a slog sweep from outside, on fourth or fifth stump, basically on your offside, to Adil Rashid, the leg spinner that's only going to turn more. So I don't hold a lot of confidence in that at the moment, but going forward and hopefully over the next year or two, guys like Smith and Carey can develop that. But the main focus, what I wanted to talk about was Marcus Stoinis, and he has been the centerpiece of white ball selection discussions for so long now. Like probably the last 2 or 3 years, especially since the World Cup. Actually, yeah, it's probably only been a year and a bit. But he's always the guy that the public want, because, like, you know, he had such an incredible Big Bash campaign, set the record there. But for highest score, most runs in a season, and all that, we know how devastating he is opening the batting. But the thing is, Marcus Stoinis, he needs the keys to an innings. And if you bat him at number 5, that just does not work. And we saw it again today. He struck at 23 off 18 and then left us 15 needed off the last over. And that was just too much for him, as he was just fresh airing full tosses. Or he's just like clipping them to deep long on, like, or, you know, extra cover. That's so infuriating to watch. And I don't think, you know, he's not suited to the number 5 role. He needs the keys to an innings to first get some runs on the board. Like, he'll strike it just over a run a ball for his first 20 balls usually. And yeah, I mean, he's 23 not out after 18 when we needed quick runs. So that says a bit there. But then when he does get going, he doesn't turn the strike over. Like I said, that's when I say he needs the keys to an innings. He needs the full control. Whereas, like someone like Steve Smith, that's why he's such a good player, because he just continually turns the strike over, and that's how he gets his way of getting in, and it frustrates the opposition because they can't get in a good rhythm. Steve Smith and Glenn Maxwell, like, that's a really good combination. I really hope that they put on a big partnership this series. And I think down the line, there will be some really big partnerships between those two. But with Marcus Stoinis batting at 5, the number 5 position in white ball cricket is just so... I honestly think it's the most important position, the all-rounder position. Whether it's in like number 6 or 7 in ODIs, or if it's number 5 here in T20s, it's you really need to rely on what seems to be an all-rounder now to just... See, if you're gonna play 5 bowlers, which both teams did, although England's England's tail is a lot stronger. It's strongest in the world, really. Like, Adil Rashid was originally listed to come in at 11. He's got 10 first-class hundreds. Like, that's just insane. I think he ended up coming in at 9. But the all-rounder position, where they usually bat, is they need to be so adaptive towards the game plan and where the game is at. And what I think that's the main thing of what Australia's been missing, and that is why they have not been able to win a T20 World Cup. The only real guy we've had like that has been Michael Hussey in the really early years, and like they really should have won a T20 World Cup back then, but they've never had that guy that they can turn to in the lower order and go, okay, we've had a classic Australian middle order collapse. We need you to just hold the ship for a bit, or we're close to the end now, Marcus Stoinis. We need you to just score 12 off 3, whatever. Just get some runs in there, or turn the strike over to Alex Carey, Steve Smith, those guys. Just turn it over and keep the partnership going, keep the pressure on England, and don't let the opposition feel comfortable. And meanwhile, you're still setting yourself. Whereas Marcus Stoinis, he needs a lot of deliveries to soak up to get his full rhythm in a row, and that is why I don't think he'll ever get a place in this Australian T20 side. Because like you're not picking him for his bowling either. Like Glenn Maxwell just bowled 3 overs. And I really rate Glenn Maxwell as a cricketer. He's really complete. He's very smart. I think his cricket IQ is really underrated. He's always seen as like, the big show. I'm gonna just whack here, do a reverse sweep because it looks cool. I think he's actually a really smart cricketer, especially in T20 ODI forms. Like, if Aaron Finch wasn't the captain, I would probably turn to Glenn Maxwell. I think he's got a really good mind. And I think that showed in the Big Bash. What was I talking about? Yeah, the all-rounder. Like, we're not picking Stoinis for his bowling. And he's like the 6th or 7th option at the moment with the ball. So he was purely picked as a batsman here at number 5. And like the instant thought is for someone like me, who I've always been very skeptical of Stoinis in the national setup, because he's always needed the keys to an innings. Apart from like his first couple years in the ODI side, he was really good at just finishing the job, getting a quick 50 every now and then. Of course, he got that big 160 against New Zealand or whatever it was. And I remember a couple quick 550s on home soil, and I think that was because he was more focused on his position in the team, whereas now he's thinking about so much about himself and how he can improve as a complete cricketer that he is I don't want to say disregarded, because that would be harsh. He obviously still cares about playing for his country and he wants to do the best for them. But he's become so caught up in the moment of wanting to impress that he now doesn't fit the T20 mold for an international player in this lineup. So like the initial reaction would be, get Stoinis out of here. He's not going to improve. Like, I don't know how old he is, but I'll check. He's not going to change that aspect of his game anytime soon. And we're not really getting much out of just having him there. Like, I guess you could say, like, we're going to play him at 5 for so much time, and because he's such a talented batsman, he will come to learn that. But then you go back to the domestic season and he's opening with Hilton Cartwright, and he's getting the keys to an innings, facing 70 balls in an innings and all that, and he just goes straight back to it. Like, this is why I got selected, so I'm going to play like this. He's 31 years old, so like he doesn't fit. He doesn't fit with what they're trying to do. Like, by the next World Cup, he's going to be 33. And I honestly think he'll still be playing in the same rhythm, because like even though he's so strong, he can rip his shirt apart and all that, he just doesn't pick the ball as he should for a number 5 spot. And like sometimes you just need to play, like my junior coach said this, and he doesn't know anything. Well, he does know some things. Obviously, that's a bit rude, but he's a junior coach, and he would basically just have us doing improvisation drills at the end of a session. Like, okay, you've worked yourself in now, but now I'm going to throw these new challenges at you. And the game suddenly turned on its head. I need you to be adaptive. I need you to play all your shots on this side. I need all your play shots down this side. I need you to score this many runs. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to do this. Because in today's game, he said, you need to have that adaptive factor. And that is the most important factor you can have as a lower order batsman, especially in today's game as it is a white ball, because the white ball game is so continuously changing where you come in at what point of the innings, and what the situation is. Like, do you need to, does your team have a large total, or are you in early? But do you still have a large total? Do you need to anchor ship? Who are you batting with? Whereas in tests, it's sort of like 90% of the time, it's just, you're in there, just go out, take your time, score some runs, unless it's like the very end of an innings you're about to declare. Like, that's really obvious. But yeah, I don't think that Stoinis can develop in that way. And I was sort of thinking about it like, all right, I don't want Stoinis in this team. He's 31 years old. He's not going to get this team to the next T20 World Cup in Australia. And I was sort of thinking, well, who do we have to replace him? Because in the squad, the only other 3 recognised batsmen, I think we've only got 3 other recognised batsmen. Sean Abbott, I guess. Oh no, we got Mitch Marsh, Dan Sams, who doesn't really count, let's be honest. Daniel Sams has been absolute rubbish with the bat, and he hurts my eyes to look at. And Josh Phillip. Now, Phillip is, we know who he is, and he is so. He just picked up his first IPL contract. What is he? I think he's like 21 years old, 22 years old, and he has that factor that Stoinis does not have. He doesn't need the keys to an innings. He'll just go out there and he will bat. He will he'll factor in that he's batting with Steve Smith or Glenn Maxwell, and he'll let them take control. Or if he's feeling, right, I like the look of this guy, I'm going to fucking go after him, then he will. He'll smack him onto the SCG roof. But obviously, he's so young and we've seen so little of him at the moment that it's that I don't know if that we'll see him this series. But I think he's closer than a lot of people think to the team. Like, Mitch Marsh would be the obvious replacement, but his batting is so up and down, and he's the same situation with Stoinis. He's getting on quite a long time now. He's been around about the side for so long, and he just can't get in a rhythm. The best rhythm he had was in Red Bull, was one Ashes series, where he made 2 tons and has done nothing else with the bat really since. I think Marsh is better suited to the T20 game at batting at 5 than Stoinis is. But the thing is, I don't think Marsh has definitely got the late order hitting factor, but I don't think he's got the discipline to turn over the strike or just hold a ground. Well, like Glenn Maxwell or Steve Smith, Alex Carey, whoever, Aaron Finch just turns over from the other end and takes control of the innings. I don't think Mitch Marsh really has that. Even though I have believed in Mitch Marsh for so long, but I think it's time to just move on from him and Marcus Stoinis. Unless they just have absolutely golden run, like even better than Stoinis' last Big Bash, and more importantly, it suits the Australian setup perfectly. That's the only reason that I can see. That's the only opportunity I can see either of them getting a shot again. I mean, having said that, I think there's a fair possibility that Marsh will come in for Stoinis next game. Either him or Matthew Wade, I forgot to say before, who I think Wade, he definitely has the attack factor, and I think he is somewhat disciplined, but sometimes he just picks the wrong ball. He completely picks it wrong, and again he's getting on a bit as well. I think I would rather Wade over both of those guys. I think he does have the ability to construct an innings. Does he have the ability to save it? I'm not really sure. But I think having Alex Carey at 6 really helps that. And if you surround, Steve Smith with more hitters, basically. Finch, Glenn Maxwell. Like, honestly, just a quick side note, I think David Warner, I think he's turned into a bit of an anchor in our white ball sides. He's been striking really slowly, and he's been caring a lot more about his wicket. Whether that's just because I don't really want to say this, but I think he could be just afraid of getting more and more scrutiny for playing selfishly and all that, and coming, because it won't take much for Warner to come under fire from the media. Pretty much everyone hates him. Abroad, at least. I don't like most people. He's still not the most popular guy in Australia. Still, I'll say that much. But I feel like Warner is so self-conscious now. He's a lot like Stoinis, except not as extreme. That he'll soak up a lot more balls now. Warner, obviously we're not going to drop Warner. He's still a class opener in any T20 side, and he combines really well with Finch. Him, Finch, Smith, and Maxwell. That's a really good top 4, and I really hope they persist with Glenn Maxwell at 4. The only other option, and this is the sort of the dark horse, is Marnus Labuschagne. Labuschagne is so tricky because he made 100 in the scratch match, right? And he's in this squad. He could theoretically play this series, but we've just seen so little of him, that little promising signs in T20. I couldn't even tell if he's got more than 3 domestic T20 50s. Honestly, even more than 2. I honestly couldn't tell you. Honestly, that first 100 that he made the other week in a scratch match, that's the only good score. I cannot remember any decent Marnus Labuschagne T20 innings. I think he is improving, but we've just seen so little of it that you can't thrust him into that number 4 or number 5 spot. Because then you got, let's say we got, Aaron Finch, Dave Warner, Steve Smith, and Marnus Labuschagne. You'd have to bat Labuschagne at 4, I guess. Then you got 2 real anchors in Smith and Labs. But that's too... I feel like that could, if we're not careful, that could take the game away from us. Because while I really rate Smith in his ability to hold down an innings, he can, and just wait until the right thing comes, he's more of a likely batsman for it to just all come undone. And Marnus, we just don't know. So I don't think that we'll be seeing Marnus this series. We could see him in the future. But it all just depends. There's so many question marks over his over what he is as a T20 batsman. Like I saw there was like a T10 or 100 ball scratch match. I'm not sure. It was one of the two for Queensland maybe a month ago, and him and Matthew Renshaw scored pretty high. Matthew Renshaw is actually quite interesting. Ooh, I would not mind if they batted him at 4 or 5. Because Renshaw, I mean, he's got the nickname as the Tortoise, so, he's not the, he doesn't have the reputation as a quick-fire T20 batsman. But at the moment, I would honestly have him closer to the T20 side than Marnus Labuschagne. But is that an obvious statement? Is that obvious? I don't know. I really don't know. But he's really improved on his adaptability. I don't know what I'm saying. How he adapts to an innings, especially in a white ball match. And Renshaw is still super young. He's like 23. He's 23 years old, right? Or is he 21? I don't know. He's 23. Like, he is super young, and he's got his best years ahead of him. If you can plug in Renshaw and Josh Phillip into the side now, and just look straight to that 2022 World Cup on home soil, I think that is our best opportunity to win the T20 World Cup. I'm thinking about it more. I think Renshaw, he best fits that mold of the number 4 or 5 spot. Because, like, we know how good he is at just turning the strike over and just being there. Like, he was at the other end for David Warner's 100 before lunch, and then he went on to score 180 himself. He only scored like 18 of not much off a bit for a test match, but he's so got the ability to just be there and turn the strike over for the first bit, and then when it gets tough and we need some runs, he will whack that. He will whack that thing out of the park, and that also gives more opportunity for guys like Josh Phillip and Glenn Maxwell. I would, if you were to plug in Matthew Renshaw at the end to the Australian setup, I would bat him at 4 and Maxwell at 5. Even though I think Maxwell, he's very versatile. He's a lot more versatile than people realize. I would bat him at 5 and have Renshaw at 4. And then you can adjust that, giving if like Smith is at the crease and he's making a big score, or Warner's going off his head. Then you can bring in Maxwell or Josh Phillip. Like, I think that gives in so many more opportunities in this side, and more importantly, it gives us something to look for in the future. I think Alex Carey's safe, but his spot as a keeper, I mean, he's a good gloveman. He's a good gloveman, but as a T20 keeper, I could see Josh Phillip getting picked over him after not much time. I feel like that could be like closer than people think. But I still rate Carey's like grit and grind ability way more. So I would, and like Flip isn't like the best gloveman, even though that doesn't really matter in a T20 as much as it does in an ODI and a test. I would definitely not be opposed to having both of them in the side for an extensive amount of time, because Carey is pretty young as well. He's like 26 or 27 years old, or maybe younger than that. Actually, I might have got that completely wrong. I don't even know. But regardless, they both have the potential to stay in the side for a long, long time. And if you can build that core, that next gen core of Renshaw, Flip, and Carey, well, also, like, Cameron Green is just around the corner. Cam Green is close. T20, he didn't really have that good of a big bash, but we've seen what he can do. Like, this is just with the bat. This is just with the bat in first class in the last domestic season, which was considered a breakout. Um, he's a gun at holding down the innings, and I think Cameron Green will also learn to be more adaptive. Like, what's he, 20 years old? He's unbelievable. Like, if you can have that core, like, Cam Green bowls high 140s too. That is such a dream next gen academy. So now I'm thinking about it. That is an amazingly strong core. Because obviously, like, Warner, Finch, Smith, like, those are your big three batsmen. And, like, you could chuck in Maxwell in there if you really wanted to. And then you've got the next core. If you develop them all right, you could have Matt Renshaw batting 4, Josh Phillip batting 5, Cam Green batting 6, and Alex Carey batting at 7. And you can still fit in. You can still put in 4 more bowlers because Cameron Green is a genuine bowler. Considering this is just assuming he gets his back right. But that provides so much variance and so much ability for this team. I think if they can develop these guys sooner rather than later, they need to make a stance. They really need to make a stance on this team, whether, all right, we're going to go for this 2021 World Cup in India, or we need to turn to the future and go 1 year earlier and develop these guys, get their T20 minds in set. But I don't think Cam Green will be there. Cam Green won't be there just then. Renshaw definitely could. I think Renshaw is definitely a smoky for that 2022 side. Like Phillip, he's in the squad. Phillip is right there. So another good summer from either of those two, I think could easily catapult them into the side. Again, we haven't seen anything from Cameron Green yet, but if he develops right, like most people think he will, and injuries don't hold him back, that is an unbelievable core. And then because Cam Green's such a genuine bowler, and you've also got, like, I just named it, Glenn Maxwell didn't even get a spot in that side. You could even play like Cam Green batting at 7 or 8, and Alex, like, you could switch those two. You wouldn't even need Alex Carey at that point, like, assuming Phillip develops right, and hopefully his glove skills get a bit better. You could have him taking the gloves instead, and then you could have whatever bowlers you wanted, because that top order is so strong and so variable. Kane Richardson, he bowled like an absolute man on fire last game. Pat Cummins is going to be around for ages. He's unbelievable. Mitch Starc is Mitch Starc. He's on track to be the best ODI bowler of all time. Adam Zampa, I think, he's still the best spinner. In terms of our spinner stocks for T20s, like, Lloyd Pope would be the first one that comes to mind. Like, Lloyd, he's not going to play Test cricket. I don't think, unless he changes his stock delivery and his consistency, Lloyd Pope won't even get close to playing Test cricket. But he's been given the keys to the South Australian spinning stocks this summer, because Tom Andrews has just signed with Tasmania. So, like, that could happen, I guess. He can make a breakthrough in the next few years. Adam Zampa just left, of course. So, I think Lloyd Pope, he could be a good T20 bowler, like next-gen spinner. I think Zampa's cool. I think Zampa will be there for the next couple World Cups. But this is this bit of a doomsday prediction. Tanveer Sangha, write it down. He will be the world's number 1 ranked T20 bowler. And that could be a freezing cold take, I don't know. But his variations and how he reads the game, he is a mystery spinner, is Tanveer. And I think he is the immediate successor of Adam Zampa. So I think we're safe there. In terms of paces, got Jai Richardson is just there. So he could very easily be there for the 2022 World Cup. And so now you've developed such a core like that. I think we're in a good place going forwards to, I don't know when the next World Cup is in after that, probably 2025. The next ODI World Cup's 2023. So we got a T20 World Cup next year, and another T20 World Cup after that, and then we go back to India have 2 World Cups in the space of 3 years. That's kind of ridiculous. I think, I've ended up rambling for a lot longer than I thought I would. I might actually post this on the Big Swing Noting podcast, actually, now I think about it. Because, this is 40 minutes of just me rambling about nothing. Well, it's not nothing, it's interesting. This is very interesting. Wherever I decide to put this, support me, follow me. Follow me on Instagram, at The Nelsie Show, at The Square Leg. For those wondering, I haven't posted on The Square Leg in a long, long time. And it's mainly because, it is because my Photoshop just broke. I've got my computer here, and my Photoshop just went. So until I get, I'm not really in need for another new computer. The Square Leg isn't, it's not a massive priority at the moment. I was probably halfway or 3/4 through making this Steve Smith thing. I recorded it in video format, so let me know if you guys want to see that in video format. It was pretty rough, but it still exists. The Square Leg is probably going to be put on hold until I get another computer, which that could be another year. I don't even know. Or I just switch entirely. I know there's Photoshop Mobile, but you can't do graphics and all that on that. So it probably maybe does this go on the Square Leg? Might be deprived of content. Anyway, follow me over there. Subscribe to the Big Swing Noting podcast on all your favorite podcasting streaming services: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. What did I say? Apple Music, Apple Podcasts. Every platform, Anchor, everything it's on. Only a few episodes on at the moment, and I've recorded a couple, but the audio got corrupted both times. We're planning to bring it back pretty soon. I don't know if you might have noticed a couple of scars on my hands and my face. I had a decent bike accident the other week, so I was going to record an episode of the podcast this weekend. Last weekend rather, but I actually couldn't talk or hold the mic. So maybe next week, or at the end of the midway through the White Ball series, might host an episode there. Maybe I'll just post it on all formats. You'll know when you see it. I don't know. I'm just rambling to myself. But anyway, thank you very much for listening, watching. I don't really know. There's probably no one listening or watching at this point. Thank you very much if you are, because it means I'm interesting. Thank you very much. Play it through.